Hello everybody, thank you for coming to this week's video blog. My name is Robert Rico, so glad you made it. Today we have an incredible guest. We have Mr. Bob Walatka, an incredible real estate agent, an incredible real estate broker. He's going to give us some fantastic tips on what you should be doing to start off your real estate career. You don't want to miss this one. I always want to give the subscribers, the listeners, a backstory to Bob Walatka and why we have you here in front of them. Now, I know some things about you. I did some research on you, and you have some solid validity to your career, man. You've come a long way in real estate. If you don't mind sharing, what did you do before real estate? And then it's going to be threefold. What did you do before real estate? Mm-hmm. Why did you choose real estate? And how did you transfer your into real estate? How did you do the whole thing there?
Yeah, great question, Robert, because for those that are newer agents or looking at getting into the industry, the big question is, how do I start this business? How do I make money doing this? How do I find business? And I was fortunate that for 35 or more years of my working career, I was in sales. And I'd been a student of sales for many, many years. I read or listened to the tape series. Yes, that's how old I am. In my car, I listened to tapes. Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Selling. That was one of the first ones. Zig Ziglar's stuff. There's a myriad of others. But I started listening to that kind of information and improving my skills. My first sales job was print sales. I used to print on paper. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to work for a .com in sales. When that fell apart, my wife and I decided to move, and in that process, found an agent. He helped us purchase a house and then helped us purchase income properties. And we found that while we had a good agent, most of the time, the agent on the other end of the deal, representing the seller in most cases, was horrible.
What makes you think? What makes you say that he was horrible? Let's give our viewers a little bit of backstory on that. What makes a horrible agent?
Well, did they stick to the time frame of the purchase agreement? Did they respond to our requests, our questions? Were they just responsive? Did they answer the phone when our agent would have challenges? Hey, I'm trying to find that answer out for you, and I'm not getting an email or a call back. Texting wasn't real prevalent back then, by the way. And it was just a lack of communication. And it just blew my mind that these people could be so poor in their communication and yet still be able to make money doing real estate. And the person that had helped us when we moved saw me and my skills and said, hey, you want to come and do real estate with me? And so I went through the process of getting my license. Unfortunately, Cal Realty training wasn't in existence then. Right. However, I used a similar online service to get my license, passed that test, and started doing real estate with a boutique brokerage. And
now, Bob, do you remember what year that was?
That would have been 2002. And
then soon after, you chose to go after a broker's license. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Once I got my feet wet and was in the business for about 3 or 4 years, then I sold enough, and the next step was to get my broker license. And the broker that I was with encouraged me to do that as well. He said, you never know what's going to happen in life. It's a good thing for you to have it.
Right.
And, went back to a similar school and got my broker license.
So when you got your license, your real estate license, your salesperson's license, mm-hmm. Were you at all intimidated at this new field? Now, although you came from sales, this is a whole different, I'm not sure what kind of sales you did, but I'm assuming this is a whole new world of sales. How did you feel about that?
Well, yeah, it was a different animal. It was a different thing that I was selling. And fortunately, I had been involved in 6 or so real estate transactions over the previous 5-6 years. So was familiar with the process, familiar with what happens in the process. So it wasn't completely brand new. Yeah, there was some level of detail about doing a transaction that I had to learn. However, for me, sales is sales. And the boutique brokerage I was with was providing online leads. Now, keep in mind, in 2002, online leads were a new, interesting thing. Today, they're commonplace. And so we were able to produce a lot of leads. And my job was to reach out to them, find out who was real, who was qualified, get them into contract, and help them buy a home. And that's really what my first couple of years of real estate looked like.
Now, speaking of leads, you're really heavy and serious about lead generating.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about lead generating. What do you find? Is that a necessary tool? How important is it? Let's go into that.
Well, I like to say I am with Keller Williams Realty. Gary Keller, the head of the company, will tell you when he asks the question, what business are you in? Or if I would ask anyone doing this, if you're thinking about getting into real estate, what business are you thinking of getting into? And a lot of times they'll say service, customer service, real estate. The real answer is you're getting into the lead generation business. You can know everything you need to know about real estate, and if you have no one to help, if no one's willing to work with you, you don't have a business. And so finding leads every day that you work is really at the core of this business.
So let's talk about how you do that. How do you lead generate on a daily basis? Is it structured? Do you wing it? You know, back in 2002, you brought up that year. I used to just wing it. I didn't even know there was internet back then. I used to just kind of wing it and did a lot of the old-fashioned door knocking thing and cold calling. How do you lead generate today?
Great question, Robert. And obviously my skills and my systems and processes have evolved over the years. Today, Monday through Friday from 8 to 11, I'm using a dialing system, and I'm calling people every day from 8 to 11. And that's my main source of lead generation. And that might be expired or canceled listings, people who are trying to sell their house and were not successful. It could be for sale by owners. Maybe they're going to need help with that. It could be an absentee owner, someone that's renting a property. Maybe it's time for them to sell. It could be what we call a circle call. Hey, we just sold a home in your neighborhood, and we're just curious who else you might know that's thinking of selling. And of course, most importantly, and if you're getting into this business, this is where you absolutely need to start. It's on your cell phone, your database, for lack of a better term. Anybody who knows you, likes you, and trusts you, they're going to be willing to work with you. And if you just ask them and remind them that you're in the business, they'll give you referrals. They may want to use you as well.
Good. So I'm guessing you're talking about your sphere of influence, anybody on your database. Good. Now, you brought up something that was very interesting to me. I learned something today from Bob Walatka. You brought up circle calling.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of that term, and I've been in the business since 1995. So can you explain that and share that with the audience as to what that is and how crucial that is to your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Circle calling, really, I believe it began with Mike Ferry. And what you do is you find phone numbers in a half a mile radius of a subject property. And it doesn't have to be your sold transaction. It could be any real estate professional sold transaction. You just need permission to call around it. And it's just simply to call them up and say, hey, we just sold a home in your neighborhood. And we know that when one home sells, usually 2 or 3 come on the market. Who else do you know that might be thinking about selling? And that's a reality about real estate. And I have made a ton of those kinds of calls, and I've gotten a lot of business from making those kinds of calls.
You seem real comfortable with that, with that type of scenario, and you seem pretty polished. So on that note, most people who come into this business don't come from a sales background and aren't as polished as you are. What kind of advice would you give somebody coming into this, this whole new career saying, what's the first step I should do? I really want to be like Bob. What is necessary, for them to succeed?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's hopefully one of the gems that I can give anybody that's watching this or listening to this right now. You mentioned polish, Robert. Well, I've been doing this for 18, 19 years. So I've had time to develop those skills, to polish my skills. And one of the things I had to come to grips with was knowing scripts inside and out. knowing the objections that people were going to bring up and knowing how to handle them. And there's actually not that many. It's not that difficult to know what objection someone's going to raise and then be able to handle that and have an answer for that. And so depending on who it is you're calling, the objection, the brush off, the reflex response, it's going to be different. And again, I've taken a lot of courses. I've done a lot of studying. I listen to a lot of books on tape, quote unquote. Audible is my friend, podcasts. There's a book by Jeb Blount called Fanatical Prospecting, which I highly recommend if you plan on using the phone, or even if you're going to door knock, which we can't do at this moment. However, the day will come when we can knock on doors again. So get tight on what it is that you're going to say. Know what you're going to say when you make that call. And for people just getting started, I just got my license. I went to the cram course with Cal Realty training. I finished the course. I passed my test. What do I do now? Well, number one, you have to join a brokerage in order to get a commission. And take your phone and start with A and let everybody know you're in the business and ask them, who do you know that might be thinking about buying or selling or investing in real estate that I can help today? That's a question that you want to have flow out of your mouth with ease. Who do you know that's thinking of buying or selling in real estate, buying or selling or investing in real estate that I can help today?
Sounds like you've invested a lot of time in your education to become polished. So I guess it takes education and time. You're never stagnant, Bob. It seems like you always have that throttle and drive. You never have it in neutral, which is fantastic. Great advice. But let's get real here. I like to always give something of a realistic, I guess, approach to this. New agent getting into the field. What are three challenges they can expect? Because it's not always, honky-dory, everything's going to be easy peasy. It's challenging, but what is it, right? If you want to make money and you want to help people out, it comes with a price. What are three challenges most agents who are coming into this business are they going to face?
The biggest one that you're going to have to face and getting into sales, period, is no. Coming to grips with the vast majority of calls that you make or doors you knock on or people you meet or conversations that you have, most people do not have a need for real estate at that moment. And so they're going to tell you no. And it's coming to grips with the fact that they're not rejecting you personally, they're rejecting what you have to offer. And if you can come to grips with that, come to grips with no, and there's another great book called Go for No that talks about, hey, you need to get through the no's to find the yes. So I would say that's the main thing I find most newer agents are going to have to come to grips with. Second thing is creating a system, a process of committing to how you're going to find business, whatever that is. We mentioned I use the phone. That became my thing. And you can tell I have a face for radio. So my voice carries well over the phone. It works for me. It's great. What gifts, tools do you have that will work best for you? And identifying what those are, what that is, and then having a system or a process and committing to this activity, this lead generation activity, every day that you choose to work, whatever that is. And three is going to be understanding the real estate transaction and the process. And if you're with a brokerage and if you have a mentor, they can help you with the steps along the way. The greatest fear a real estate agent has, a new agent has, is what if somebody asks me a question I don't have the answer to?
Right. Going back to the no one, the first one, no. That's such a small word, man. It's such a small word, yet it's so powerful, because actually when I first got my license, that was probably my biggest deficit, was that no. Every time somebody said no, I took it personal. Bob, how do you not take something like that personal? I see a lot of agents who get rejected. And again, it's part of the game. It's part of the career. It's part of the livelihood. And that small word has them quitting. I mean, literally saying, I can't take the no's. Rejection. How did you handle it? And what do you recommend for people who take it personal?
As I mentioned, Jeb Blount in his book, Fanatical Prospecting, talks about rejection. And I used to tell people, hey, you just got to get over it. You have to get over it, okay? He says rejection sucks.
Right.
Sorry,
It does.
rejection does suck. Being told no does suck. It's not fun. It's awful. It feels bad. And he says you have to embrace the suck. And if you do it enough times, if you're confident in what you're saying and the questions you're asking, and that you're coming from contribution, you're looking for people to help, eventually, after you hear enough no's, you will find the yeses. And it's understanding that you're building up a bank of the no's so that you can get to the yes. And if you can accept that, come to grips with that, it can be easier. I've been told to F off on the phone a few times. I had somebody say, I hope you and your children die of AIDS over the phone.
How does that not eat you to the core? I was like, whoa. I mean, how do you handle it?
That actually cracks me up. And when it's only happened once or twice that somebody has been that rude and that awful. The thing to understand is that hurting people hurt people. And so if somebody's doing that, taking that action over the phone, there's some pain or there's some problem or there's some challenge in their life. And I really can't get upset with them. You know, it's okay.
Okay.
I high five the agents around me when I get told to F off or something like that happens. Because take fun, have fun with it.
But that's great advice, because that no thing, it's always bugged the hell out of me, because it's. But I'm a person who would never want to hurt anybody, and I don't see why anybody would be so rude to me. But I guess that's the way of the world. I like your idea of just get over it, move on to the next one. The next point you made was somebody who's non-committal. It's you have to be committed to this career. Again, it sounds like you invest a lot of time learning the business, and you continue to do so. To where I'm going to guess the typical agent doesn't. Deals come, they close the deal, move on to the next one. How important is it to invest time in somebody's career?
It's vital. It's vital. You should be committing to reading some kind of book in sales, real estate, listening to a book, listening to tapes, going to educational seminars, webinars. Most brokerages offer a great deal of classes and training, and that can get overwhelming. It's a matter of finding a few that are of interest to you that you can learn from. Grab one or two things from each of those books or classes or webinars or things that you go on, and then put it into practice, put it into play. And I'm fortunate enough, I've been doing it long enough that now I get the opportunity to learn from the front of the class. I get to teach classes on how to do this business, and as I'm teaching, I'm also learning. And someone in the class may bring up something, have a question, have an idea that I hadn't thought of. And I'll go, great, I'll put that into practice. Fantastic. So yeah, constantly learning is a vital piece of this business.
Good. Let's change the channel. Speaking of classroom and learning, how important is it for a student how important is it for somebody looking to get into the business, to get the real estate license? How important is it for them, in your opinion, to take a live class, in the classroom? You're a great trainer for California Realty Training.
Thank you.
What do you see when these students walk in and are listening to Bob Walatka teaching them, real estate concepts and terminology and motivating them? Do you feel it's important to do it in class?
Absolutely. And it's interesting, we do the 2-day crash course. And when I first get in there, I'll see people that are a little bit scared. They're a little bit frightened. Will I pass this test? What am I getting into? What's going on? And as we go through the material, and as they get the ability to answer questions and discover that, hey, maybe they do know something, and give them the opportunity to discover. And in addition to giving them information about the test and how to pass that and what you can expect there, I'll also go into real life examples of how this information is going to work in the real world. And that's always a vast benefit because the state test doesn't really prepare you to do this business. It prepares you to pass a test.
Right. So you're able to provide them with insight on the career in general, which I think is crucial. They don't just, again, walk into this career thinking, what do I do next? Bob gave me some advice, and they can take it and get started on the right foot. Hey, Bob, let's talk about what's going on today in today's world with this COVID-19 crisis, this pandemic, this whole thing that's going on, and how it's affected real estate in general, the world, the real estate agents, their business, lead generating, door knocking, sales, all that stuff. I mean, it just in general, has it been hit? Will it be hit? Is there going to be a downfall? Is there not going to be a downfall? But life goes on. And Bob Walatka is the type of person that doesn't stay stagnant. Bob Walatka is the type of person that lead generates based on our conversation. What are you doing now in today's world, with your limited, resources? You can't go door knocking. You can't be out in the public. What is Bob doing?
That's a really, really valuable question. And I was fortunate enough that using the phone was one of my main vehicles for finding business. Yes, I've done open houses. Yes, I've done door knocking. Yes, I've done social events and what have you. They're not my favorite. My favorite is using the phone, and I can still do that. I can still communicate with people over the phone, and I can now book Zoom calls or virtual appointments, which is great because it's less pressure than, hey, I'm going to come to your house or you're going to come to my office. And so the leader of our company, I'm with United Home Group, Cody Gibson, when this all hit, told all of us that, okay, there's a lot of things you can't do. You're right. You can't do open houses. You can't do social events. You can't go door knocking. There's a list of things that were normal lead generation activities for an agent that are now gone. They're off the table. Forget it. So look at what can you do. There's 20 things you can't do. What's one thing you can do? And go and do that. And that's in this market right now, a lot of things have been taken away, and there are still things that we can do. And the social media texting is now, or messaging in Facebook or in Instagram, those tools are now stronger, more prominent tools than maybe they were a month ago.
Are you still able to keep your structure with your business during this time? Is it difficult, say, mentally to say, oh, I think I'm going to sit on the couch today and just cry and say, when am I going to get out of here? How do you keep your positive attitude with all of this? Let's just call it what it is. It can be depressing for a lot of people out there. Yeah. How does Bob not follow suit? Well, how do you go, no, not for me. I'm going to find that one thing, like you said, that I'm able to do. How do you do it?
Well, I've got bills to pay, Robert.
Damn motivation.
If I don't make those calls or take that action or do something to find business, I'm going to be in trouble. And so it's just as simple as that. Some things that I do personally, and yes, I do still get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, even though I'm not going to the office. And I do a lot of the steps of Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, which is a great book, by the way, and get ready for the day and go exercise and read and journal and listen to great stuff, meditate. And those are activities that help prepare me to get to work. And now my commute to the office is much, much shorter as well. Right. And my wife, who's also in the business and she teaches as well, we've chosen that the TV only comes on for Pandora. So we can have background music while we're doing our work. And during the daytime, it's only on that. And we choose not to watch TV until after dinner time.
Wow, that's great. So your structure's still there. Your time management is there. Nothing has changed. Nothing's allowed Bob Walatka to change. You got to still pay the bills, which means you still have to work, and you still got people who need you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's really at the core of it. I'm going to be successful in this business. I am successful in this business, and that's going to continue. And I know what I need to choose to make that happen. And that's to stick to a structure of reaching out to people, finding people I can help.
Fantastic. Listen, you also brought up another point. I'm going to go down this road. Your wife works with you. She's also in the business.
Mhm.
How is that going? Has it been going well? Do you recommend that? So I've had a question before. In fact, I may have done a vlog on this before. I don't recall, but it sounds familiar too. Because I also work with my wife. We've been doing this together since 2000. Worked out great for us. How is it for you and your wife? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's actually great because I categorize it as good cop, bad cop. She's the good cop, I'm the bad cop, especially when we're in a real estate transaction. And our personality types are such that we meld well together. She has strengths in one area, I have strengths in another area. And so where she's able to nurture and hold people close and let them talk and spend time with them, and whereas I'm task oriented, let's get this done, let's get this moving, let's get these details handled. The two of us together doing that work well together. So she leverages her strengths and I leverage my strengths.
Sounds like a beautiful blueprint. That's exactly how we do it. We work off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. The couple's blueprint. I think it's fantastic. I've enjoyed it, and we've been very successful doing so. One last question, Bob, if you don't mind me asking. We're going to close this off on a nice soft tone. How has real estate, personal level, Bob, how has real estate changed your life? Now, it's a broad question, but it's sure as hell changed my life. I mean, I just can't believe what it's done for me. I just can't. What has it done for Bob?
That's really good. As I mentioned, I've been doing sales for about 35 years now and done different aspects of sales. And real estate is one of the few that is wide open. And there's huge opportunity there. And you can take it as far or as short as you want to go. And it's all on you. I wake up every day unemployed. And I get to decide every day if I'm going to be employed that day. That's one thing I really appreciate about the real estate business. In addition, giving me knowledge about one of the biggest assets that we can own in our life, as well as a great retirement vehicle. My wife and I have both purchased properties in other cities where their price point is much, much lower, and we rent them out, and that's providing us income through the rents of those properties. And that will go on ad infinitum and be able to leave that for our kids as well.
So would you say financially, your financial status has changed from when you started your real estate career?
Oh yeah. And also the aspect of being a business owner. Really, you are a business owner with your own real estate business, and the opportunities that provides for you from a tax standpoint, as well as just from a growth standpoint of being your own boss, being your own business owner. My income is not dependent on somebody else to give me a raise, to keep me employed. As 30 million people are on unemployment now. Well, it's up to me to be employed. That's my job. And I like having that decision and that power.
I like that perspective. That's pretty neat. So you're in charge of your destiny, which is crucial here. Makes me wonder how you have this big smile on your face. It sounds like you got this all together and you figured it out, which is great. What I want the subscribers and viewers to understand is that sure, it may be intimidating at first, and sure, you're going into a field that's brand new. But I think with work, with learning, lead generating, and everything else you've mentioned, you can make it happen. It can change your life, because it changed my life. Financially, intellectually, you surround yourself with a lot of professionals, and it works. Any last parting words, Bob, that you could give us as far as advice and what a new agent can expect in this world of real estate?
A new agent can expect to ask a lot of questions, and not have all the answers, and it's okay. And a new agent, don't panic. It'll be all right. Yeah, and you mentioned something, having powerful people around you, professional people around you. Jim Rohn said, you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. So if you want to be a great real estate agent, at whatever brokerage you choose to go to, you get close to those top ones and learn what they do. Most really good real estate agents want to share their success. And we come from abundance in our mindset, in our market center, in Keller Williams as a whole. There's enough business out there. There's plenty of business out there. Let me share with you what I do to find it and put it to work for you.
Bob, but you would agree with me that not all agents are the same.
No, they are not. Absolutely not. We all have different strengths, weaknesses, different personality types, or what have you. Absolutely.
So on that note, where can people find Bob Walatka? Let's assume people are watching here who don't have a license and don't intend on getting a license. They're just curious about real estate. They might want to sell their house or buy a house. And they think you might be the person to help them out. Or somebody who might want to take classes and says, God, where can I find Bob so he can teach me this crash course? Let's give them your contact information. Where can they find you? All your contact information.
Absolutely, absolutely. My phone number is 310-692-4132, and hopefully that's being displayed down below. My email is B Walatka, W-A-L-A-T like Tango, K-A, at unitedhomegroup.com. So if you have questions, or if you want to learn more about Cal Realty training as a course, or the crash course, or just want to understand better how to go about this business, give me a call, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. Be happy to help you out any way I possibly can.
Hey, Bob, this has been a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking your time out, to spend with us. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You stay safe out there.
You too, Robert. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching this last video. Hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. Hey, do us a favor. If you think a family member or a friend would also enjoy it, why don't you share it with them? I guarantee it, they're going to get something out of it. In addition, if you have any comments, questions, or a topic you want us to discuss, hey, leave it down in the comment section. And one last thing. If you haven't subscribed yet, what the hell are you waiting for? Do it right now. Hope to see you next week.